Oh wait, yeah, I can see the intro. It works.
This is nice. So fancy.
Yeah. That's hard to manage with Zoom.
Remo does that. Remo has a conference and a panel view. That's pretty sweet. And we have plenty of time to explore things later. Are we ready to open the room? Or are you still working on that? I lost that tab. I'm admitting all. Turning off the waiting. Well, I'm not going to turn off the waiting room actually. I did. They are in here. Before you do that. Sorry. Let's see. I guess I'm going to disable the waiting room for now. We'll revisit that if we need to. Participants are muted upon entry. So we have a bit of a chat going here, and we have a chat in Discord.
I'll cover Discord.
Okay, then yeah, you should. Buddha, if you cover Discord, I'll cover the Zoom chat. And then I'll say go to the Discord and ask questions there.
Should we just agree to only use Discord? Or...
I mean,
Just don't use YouTube.
yeah. I think it's okay if it will. We can do both for now. I think that's okay.
Alright.
Mike can't get in the Discord, but he should be. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So there are some people who may, I guess, Buddha will want to look at Mike who can't get in the Discord.
Yes. If someone needs girly Eve, just write your address in the Paramount chat so I can send you some.
Ready to go. Let's set everyone in the waiting room. We should be messaging. Sorry. Okay. Michael, am I correct to assume that you're hosting and I'm just providing support? Did you? Okay. I didn't know if you wanted me to speak, like, to get us started, but it's all you. I'm gonna go on mute and maintain support, and I'll also be managing poems.
Yeah, it's Samir. I saw it there. Samir.
participants live. So I think what we might do, we'll use, so for everyone who's listening, if you're here, you're going to get a POAP, don't worry about it. The distribution will be based on the sign-up list at ETHStaker.cc. And I'm also screenshotting to make sure I have a good log of who was here in case later there's, like, I'm not sure. But I'm not sure that now is the right time. So viewers don't need to worry about the POAP on the live stream, but we do need to share POAP here, right? Is that fair? Yeah, so for all of the participants may not be aware of what POAP is, but the people on, oh, perfect, then I will know.
Hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you're viewing us today. I am Unvetica.eth, one of the moderators here at the ETH Staker Community. For those of you that may have just discovered us with the advertisement of this workshop, we are available on our Reddit, Discord, and Twitter pages. If you're looking at the live stream, the links are just below the window. All of the applicable links, everything that we talk about today will be sent to the participants in a post-workshop PDF as well, so you don't have to feel so pressured to maintain the chat and follow along with the workshop. So just be aware of that also. Before we get started today, I do want to first and foremost thank everyone that has shown up today. This is the first time that the ETH Staker community has hosted one of these types of events. So we're learning as we go, but the reception here has been amazing. There were well over 80 registrations, and I'm already seeing at least over 50 in the live session here, so that's incredible. So thank you very much for that. And that being said, none of this would be possible without the overwhelming support of my fellow ETH Staker moderators. We've got a bunch of them in the Zoom chat today. We've got the infamous and insightful Superfizz. We've got everyone's favorite Canadian, Nolan, also known as Lemboshi Nakagini. And last but certainly not least, almost too pretty to be in crypto, we got Buddha. We also have Samir. He is joining us today. He's going to be, that's the guide that we're actually following for today's workshop. So he's also present today. Typically, we've got Patricio Worthalter, who usually joins us for our ETH Staker community calls. Some of you may be already familiar with him or seen him on our previous recordings on our YouTube page. He won't be here today. However, he is here in spirit because everyone that participates and completes the workshop today receives an exclusive ETH Staker Validator Workshop POAP. And if we go to this screen, which isn't pretty, the little POAP in the middle there is what everyone is eligible for in the live feed. That will be distributed after the workshop. Again, nothing you have to fret about during the workshop. We want your primary focus to be on the information and data today. The POAPs will be distributed to the wallet provided on your registration form. If there are any issues with that afterwards, we'd like to encourage everyone to join, if you haven't already, our Discord channel at invite.gg/ETHStaker. There's also a dedicated Validator Workshop channel in there where everyone can coordinate and ask questions and seek help both during this workshop and after the workshop as well. All right, so that's it for introductions. I'm sure everyone is as excited as I am about getting their hands dirty, finally building their validator. Before we do that, though, I do want to go over sort of the flow for what today is and what you can expect. We've got this really broken down into 3 sections. We're going to start today with installing all the prerequisite software necessary for validators to function. There are a few binary packages and other software that is reliant and necessary for everything to function correctly. So we'll be installing all of that first. So let's get into that. These are the 3 items that we'll be going over first. We're going to open up your network ports. We're going to install and run Go Ethereum, and then install the Lighthouse client and all of its dependencies. Okay. Let's see here. Can I get a thumbs up from any of the moderators to make sure that the live stream, there's a terminal present?
YouTube is lagging a bit, but it will. Yeah,
Okay.
now it is.
All right, perfect. And then, all right, let me do a screen share, see what happens here. Can everyone see that?
Yep.
All right. Okay, so before we get started here, I do want to preface again that there's a lot to go over here. There are a lot of steps. They aren't necessarily difficult, but there are a slew of things that we have to go over, and there are a few gotchas along the way. So if you find that you're getting caught up on a step or things aren't quite working correctly in comparison to what you're seeing on our screen, again, please join us on the Discord. The link is invite.gg/ETHStaker, and that link will be in the Zoom chat as well for you to click on. If you have any questions, our moderators and community are in there to help you. So the first thing we want to do here is go ahead and let's just jump in. We are going to, actually, I'm sorry, before I even issue some of the commands, let me do this and say that this is meant to be a minimal viable product in terms of a validator. So we aren't going to go in depth on security. We aren't going to install Grafana or Prometheus, which are sort of monitoring tools and user interfaces to help graph and monitor your validator. This is more just to get you up and running. And then we fully plan on having some form of these workshops afterwards to expand and build on what we're doing today. So that also means hardening your validator, making sure it's secure, and then installing some sort of monitoring software so you can visually see what your validator is doing, what it's not doing, and looking through some of the data and details. All right, so with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. And we are going to start by, this is a fresh installation of Ubuntu 20.04. We have not done anything to this particular server, so we're going to start by opening up some of the ports. And everything we're going to do today is pretty much prefaced by sudo. For those of you who are not familiar with Linux, sudo is basically root access. It gives you higher permissions to make sure that everything that you tell the system to do, it's going to do. So we're going to allow this port. And we're going to do the same for Lighthouse. Okay, and then we're going to enable these so that upon restart, we don't have to continually reissue these commands. They'll just automatically be up.
Michael, someone is asking how can he open the terminal?
Are they?
So I think, yeah.
Sure.
I think
Okay, let's start there. That's even better. So if you're completely new to Linux, what you want to do is, let's see here. Let me share my desktop, see if I can get away with that here.
Yeah, some people are coming from Windows, so they don't know
Yeah.
where that makes sense.
I don't know how well everyone's going to be able to see this, but in the bottom left-hand corner of Ubuntu, there's sort of this show applications button. It looks like a bunch of dots. You'll click on that, and then you're just going to search for the word terminal. And then there's going to be this terminal icon. You're just going to click on that, and it'll open up the default Ubuntu terminal session. Just give a couple minutes for people that may be new to that.
Yeah, could you repeat the last steps as well? Because they weren't able to follow.
Sure,
They didn't have
sure.
the terminal open.
So in the bottom left-hand screen of Ubuntu, there'll be the dots. If you hover over that icon, it should say Show Applications. You're going to click on that, and it's going to bring there's going to search field on the very top where it says Type to Search. And then you're just going to type the word terminal. And then click on the icon that pops up. It should look, well, my icon probably looks different, but it'll look something like that. And then once you click on the button, it should open up your terminal session.
Could you post or paste the commands to the Zoom chat because people are copying it or want to copy it from the Zoom
Yes. Chat? Let's do this. So the guide, I've copied and pasted into the chat. That'll be easier. Let's do that instead.
Yeah, let me get the friends link for you guys. Hold on a second.
Okay.
Okay, I'll copy and paste the commands in the chat while you do this.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and continue. Well, I'll give it a couple of minutes yet.
So I just put in the chat the link to the friends link, so that'll bypass the paywall.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. So I'm going to go back to the terminal here.
Can we confirm that everyone participating has a terminal open and no one is still struggling with it?
Good call.
So there's a question about why we're using Lighthouse instead of Prism. They're both fine products. We consider them to be, while different, equally strong in different ways. The reason we chose Lighthouse specifically is that Prism currently has more market share, and Lighthouse is an equally viable product. So our intention is to kind of balance that a little bit.
And just to expand on that a little bit more, the reason it's important for us to sort of equal out that market share is because if there were any issues, say with Prism, which is the biggest one right now, and they go down, it causes what we saw with Medasha, where we had finality issues and overall network health issues. By increasing the equality of the clients we mitigate the possibility of that happening in the future. So if there are an equal amount of client usage, the possibility of that happening lessens a little bit. So. Okay, I think we're gonna continue here if everyone's good. All right. So we've opened up the ports, we've enabled them. Now what we're going to do is install and run the Go Ethereum node. The first thing we're going to...
I think they didn't open the ports yet because they didn't even have the terminal open.
Sure, sure.
Could you paste the commands in the chat so they can copy it?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep, for those of you who are just catching up, we are skipping the security and SSH steps in the guide. We want to just get you up and running to understand the fundamentals of the validator, and then we can work on securing and adding all the bells and whistles afterwards.
Hey, Michael, you put the commands to the waiting room.
Oh, are there two chats?
Yeah. So you want to go to everyone.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I did it.
I got it now. Okay. All right.
So the first port number there, 30303, that's for the ETH1 node for Geth. And the second port there is for Lighthouse, that's port 9000. Those are both UDP and TCP. And by omitting the UDP and TCP in the commands, it actually registers it on both. And if Michael does a status in a minute, you'll see them both in the list. The port forwarding is required on the router as well. If you're running from home, for example, behind a router, you'll need to set that up. And there are lots of guides on the internet on how to do that, or you can check with your manufacturer's documentation as well. Yeah, I don't think we've done that yet. I don't think we've enabled the firewall yet.
Here's the next command that we ran to before we resume, which is enabling the firewall. And then here's the status command.
I think we can continue.
Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is install Go Ethereum, and we're going to use the command in the chat. That's going to go through and copy a GitHub repository onto your validator. Now it looks like it's completed. Now what we're going to do is just update our machine to make sure everything is current. with this command. And then we're going to install Geth. Now, for those of you who aren't aware, either Buddha or Fizz or Nolan, what exactly is Geth, and why are we installing that first before we install anything else?
So Geth, you want to go, Hank?
You can go.
Geth is an Ethereum 1 client, and that's what keeps Mainnet synced today, and how you can send and receive transactions. The reason we need an ETH1 node for ETH2 staking is to see who is depositing to the deposit contract and who to bring into the ETH2 network.
Awesome, thank you.
So someone asked about Infura, and that is a good thing to bring up. We are, as an ETH Staker community, we encourage decentralization. And so we want the network to remain robust and healthy because we believe that a healthy staking ecosystem is best for everyone. There are perfectly acceptable shortcuts that you can take, and we're not against these. We just don't promote them. And one of those things that you can do is connect to a service to get a feed of ETH1 data. And so what that means is you wouldn't have to run Geth. You wouldn't have to have that extra 300 gigs of data. And so it generally works well. The problem is that if that feed goes down, then you are dependent on that feed and your validator will stop. The most well-known service is Infura, and Infura does work very well. If for some reason you cannot run a Geth, or if you cannot run an ETH1 client, there are others like Nethermind and several others. It is absolutely acceptable to run an Infura node. To get data from an Infura feed. We just don't think that it's best practice. It is acceptable though.
Okay, so we're going to create an account, a service account for Go, and I pasted the command in the chat, and we're going to go ahead and run that. We're then going to create go ahead.
Creating a separate account for the Geth application to use means that it's separated from all the other files on your computer, and if there is any sort of vulnerability or attack, it limits what files they can access, most notably your validator keys.
All right, now what we're going to do is create a data directory for the ETH1 chain for Geth. We're going to use the command in the chat. Basically all the data that it collects, it's going to go, we're going to tell it exactly where to go so we know where it is. And then the next command in the chat, we're going to give the location we just created the correct permissions for the system to use to make sure that it can read and write and access the material that it needs.
Okay, let's wait a bit. A few people are typing in the Discord channel.
Okay.
Okay, I think we're fine.
Okay. Now what we're gonna
Okay, someone is saying wait. Okay, let's wait.
No problem.
Nice timing.
I'd like to talk about what's going to be different between what we're doing today and Mainnet. So what we're doing today is building a testnet validator on the Pyrmont network. And so when we switch to Mainnet, which really could be very soon, you're going to want to wipe this box, and you're going to want to reinstall following many of the same instructions. But Samer will update his instructions, and you'll see a formal release from the client developer teams after Genesis is initiated. And that means after the 512,000 ETH in the deposit contract have been reached. You can look about a day or two after that, the clients will announce. So Lighthouse and Prism will say, this is our mainnet release. And that's really the one you want to look for. And so you'll go through many of these steps. The things that will be different are you will not be on the Gurley testnet. And you'll see some references here to using Gurley. That will be removed, and any references to Pyrmont will be removed. And we're not really changing those. They're simply left out because the mainnet configuration, you don't have to specify a testnet. It's just assumed that you're on mainnet.
How's the chat looking, guys? We good to go?
Yeah, looks fine. Looks fine to me.
Okay. I think this is where we left off now. Okay, so now we're going to create, let's see, we created the service account, we created the directory, we gave it permissions. All right, so now we're going to create a systemd service. And how do we want to describe this? So people who aren't familiar with Ubuntu, what are we exactly doing here, gentlemen?
Sorry, I was responding. What was the question?
So I'm going through the steps on creating the systemd service to create.
Great.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So you can actually run Geth just fine in your terminal. The problem is when you leave that terminal, Geth will shut down. So what these instructions are doing is setting up something called a systemd or a system daemon service, so that Geth will continue running no matter what, and if it dies, it'll restart. This is a daemon is a kind of program that runs in the background of a computer all the time. So we are entering commands to set up Geth as a system daemon to run continuously.
So if everyone's looking at my terminal screen now, just to break down this command a little bit more, because I know I'm realizing just how new people are to Linux. Basically what this is saying is this nano command is like a text editor, and we're saying to create this file. So when you issue this command, your terminal is going to look a little goofy. It's going to not just be another command prompt. It's going to open up to a text editor. And if we go over to Samer's tutorial, I will paste it in the chat. I don't know how well it's going to translate, but this is the data that we're going to provide in the file. So we're just going to copy and paste that over. And then once you have that pasted, to save and get out, what you're going to do is hit Control X. And then it's going to ask you, do you want to do this? Do you want to save? And you're just going to hit Y. And then hit Enter. So again, I know that could be a little scary to people very new to it, but we're just opening up a text editor, we're pasting in the details, and then saving that file. That's basically what's happening here.
I'm seeing someone ask for a wait. Let me check this out.
Yep, no problem.
I get invalid user message. Let me see if that's... invalid user message. If you're getting that invalid user message, can you tell us more about what you're typing that causes that to happen? You can type that in the chat. So after I do sudo chown geth, no, it would not be because they didn't log in as admin, invalid user get the geth. Okay, so you skipped the add user command. And I don't see these directions directly, but there is a command that says add user geth, and it appears that you must have skipped that command. Can someone repaste that as it's shown in the guide?
It's in the chat now, so that's going to be the command to add the user.
And I need to tell everyone, like, you're seeing some of these commands that when they're pasted, they may not have correct line breaks, and you cannot paste multiple commands on one line. So anytime you see sudo, that is always going to be the first word of a new command. Otherwise, we'll try hard to reformat or keep that formatted correctly for you.
Lamboshi just said to install nano. If it says command not found, make sure to use the sudo apt get install nano. I will post it in the chat.
Sorry, Buddha, you said you're going to post that in the chat, the command? Okay, thank you.
Also, someone asked earlier if they shouldn't wait for the ETH1 node to fully sync before they do anything. So for the testnet, it barely matters because the testnet will sync pretty fast. I think it's like 45 minutes. But on the mainnet, it does matter because if you do your deposit before the ETH1 node is in sync, you will not be able to stake, which means that you will probably lose money because you're not able to validate. So make sure your ETH1 node is fully in sync before you deposit.
Absolutely. That's a great point.
So, Anvedika, if you want to open up the Geth service in Nano again, and say a few quick words about it. I won't go on too long about it, but the way that you configure these daemon services is there are a number of sections within there. Unit service and install. There are others as well, but that's what we're going with here. I'm not going to explain each one of those, but the important things in this file are basically that we created a user called goeth, and so the user is specified there as part of the service. So that's the user that runs the service. That's the user we gave access to the data directory in varlib goeth earlier. And then the important line here is exec start. That's the line that the configuration is telling the service how to start, basically. Geth is the name of the binary, the executable that the service is going to run. And so it just knows where that is. So we specify Geth. That was installed earlier with the PPA package. The flag and the items in the line with the dash dash, those are flags or parameters or options. And the flag with the go early just basically says that we want to run this Geth client against the go early network. And so if this was mainnet, we would omit that flag, for example. The HTTP tells it to open up an HTTP RPC server, and that's the server that allows your beacon chain. It's going to expose an endpoint that your beacon chain can then talk to. So that's important as well. And then the data dir is obviously just letting it know, hey, we want to store that ETH1 chain data in a location called var lib go Ethereum. And so what we've done is we've given the goeth user permission to that folder with some of the earlier commands there. And when we run the service, it will run under the user goeth, which will then, execute that ETH1 chain and then store the chain data inside varlib go Ethereum.
That's great. Thank you very much for that explanation. Okay, I'm going to move forward a little bit here, and let me know if we need to wait. So once we've created that daemon file, next, what
Let's wait a few minutes.
Alright.
Some people are
no problem.
in the Discord still trying to fix it.
Okay.
Yeah, the most important thing, and my attention has been divided, but it is so important that you get the stanzas correct in that file. And I hope someone has already said this, but I'll repeat it again. If the stanzas are correct, and that means if each line in that service file is not correct, then it will not launch correctly. And I know when you copy and paste, a lot of times those bracketed terms get messed up. But in Nano, you will always see that bracketed highlight. And if those three stanzas are not highlighted, and if you don't have the same number of lines here, then your service will not launch. And in about 5 or 8 minutes, you're going to feel frustrated because we're going to view the output of that service. And if it's not correct, it will not launch. And you will say, "Arr!"
So some people have issues with the nano command. Apparently it says command not found, and even installing the nano thing, it still doesn't work. I'm not sure how to go forward.
What command are people using?
So they should begin by typing which, W-H-I-C-H, space N-A-N-O, and it should show output that tells where Nano is. If that command executes correctly, then Nano is installed. And it is a default system tool. So that tells me that there's something else going on. It's not actually a problem with Nano. Yeah, so I don't know if we told people how to save. I'm seeing some comments about this now. When you're done saving and exiting, Control X and Control Y. No, it's actually Control X and then Y and enter. That means Control X to save and to exit. And yes, you want to save and then press enter. You can do this as many times as you want. It is a little uncomfortable for people who aren't using this kind of text editor, but believe it or not, Nano is the easiest editor available.
This is
the easiest command line editor
like a great plug for Vim. And for those of you who are looking at my terminal right now, you can see the to further expand on that, if you forget which commands to use, the little caret, the little mountaintop looking thing right there, that's the representative of control. So control and then the respective letter here gives you the options available.
Okay. I found out the problem people are having with Nano is that they're copying the $ prompt. And so the $ prompt is an indicator that tells you that we're starting a new command. To give you a little too much Linux information, when you see a $, it means you're running that command as a normal user. If you see a £, which you see Shift3, the £, means that you're running a command as the super user or sudo. So anytime you see a $ or a £, that's not part of the command. It's just a starting point.
Something for the non-Linux folks that I found really confusing at first. That line there, sudo nano, and then that path, and then geth.service. Not only does that open the editor for us to edit that geth.service configuration, but the first time you run it, it actually creates the geth.service configuration as well. And that took me a while to figure that out. Like I was confused, where did geth.service come from? And actually running that line basically tells the editor, hey, in this location, etc systemd system/geth.service, create that geth.service file and open it up for editing. And then you open it, you edit it, you save it and exit, and then it persists that configuration file to the to that location.
Okay, looks like we sorted Discord out. So the people who were stuck in Discord. Someone says trying to delete the service config to get the format right. I'm not sure what he means.
Okay to move forward?
Yes, I would move forward.
Okay. So after creating that file, the next step we're going to do is reload the service. This command. Basically, it just restarts it. It's just like when you install new software on a computer. It's good practice to restart. This is kind of what that's doing. We're recycling it. Now what we're going to...
Oh, sorry, Anvitika. The important call out here, the super important call out here, and this is where lots of people get tripped up. If you make changes to any of those service config files, you need to call this daemon reload. And if you don't, then it may not reflect the changes that you made. So that's really important. It caught me. I got caught out on that tons of times.
Okay, someone is saying, please wait. Guys, please bear with us noobs. It would be interesting where you guys are stuck so we can help.
That's true, yeah.
Okay, for this person who is stuck at a GNU Nano 4.8 blank screen, it means that from there you'll... Oh dear. I don't know if someone has said this. And so I don't catch everything. But if you want to paste into, say you want to copy from Sameer's Medium post and paste into Nano directly, you would use Control-Shift-V. You can also use right-click and paste. And I'm sure we've brought this up. I hope we have. So normally paste is Control-V, but if you're doing it into a terminal, you have to type Control-Shift-V. Have we said that?
No, we have not said that.
No, we haven't. But you also can right-click and copy-paste.
Correct.
Yes. It's one of those things. Anytime you're dealing with a terminal, the commands are just a little different because it's called binding. They're bound to different commands already. So if you want to copy from a terminal, you type Control-Shift-C, and to paste into a terminal, you type Control-Shift-V. And so that was a reference to the person who was stuck at the blank Nano screen. You'll want to go to Sameer's guide and copy that service block and carry that over to the terminal window, click inside the terminal window, and then type Control-Shift-V to paste in that text. And after that, you'll want to verify that each line is spaced correctly. If you've made a mess of that file, of the system file, the easiest way to do it is really just to use your cursor to go to the bottom and backspace over it and then paste back in. There are better ways to modify it, but it's best to just keep this easy. So using your cursor and backspace is the easiest way to clean that up if you've made a mess.
Mm-hmm.
Additionally, if you're in that terminal view, you cannot use your mouse to click to different lines. You'll need to use the up and down arrows on your keypad.
Since there are some individuals that have issues, but I'm not sure how long we should wait. Maybe it's just, I don't know, but let's wait a few minutes. Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't work, maybe even just looking at the process in general. So even if you move forward, it's just nice to see how it works in general and how complicated it is, instead of waiting very long. Otherwise, the people who are already done, you have to wait.
And the flip side of this is going to be great for home users who, they can watch it at 2 times speed or they can hop through. Mm-hmm. But learning some of those very simple basics that we end up taking for granted is really valuable to people who haven't done this before.
Yeah, so even if you fail or are frustrated, doesn't really matter. You can just watch afterwards and ask us. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, I am going to continue on here then. So before I issue the next command, just to sort of summarize, because we did have a good chunk of questions here, really great information. Basically, what we've done is we've downloaded the Go Ethereum binaries, the program data, to our validator. We've created a system program so that it runs in the background, so that we don't have to, everything turns on and runs in the background. Now what we're going to do is start up that program, the text file that we just created. We're going to do that with this command. Now the systemctl is basically the Linux version of I don't know how in the weeds we're going to get here. Basically, it's just the operating system's way of saying to start specific programs. I see that in the chat, but we'll get after this one. And then we're going to run a status on that to verify that it is in fact up. And it's going to look like this, or something similar to it. We should hopefully see a active and running bunch of green. If for some reason there's a typo in the daemon file that you had created, this is where we would see the follow-up from that. You won't be able to start it, and we should be able to see this status reflected as that.
And that's really common. I guarantee 50% of people right now are seeing a failed or inactive, and you're gonna.
Right.
It happens to all of us all the time. It's no big deal. All you do is go back and do that sudo nano etc, modify the service file, and you're going to look in there for something that you didn't get right. It's what I call them a picky file. It's picky because you have to have everything in exactly the right place. Even if you copy paste, you still have to have the lines, the line breaks right. So if you got a failure, you'll just look through those and see which one. A lot of times what happens is you'll have like where it says wants network.target, then you'll have the service right beside that on the same line, and you just won't catch it.
Mm-hmm. In fact, let me break it on purpose so we can see what. I'll just kind of delete some random stuff here.
I haven't seen anyone complain on the Discord that they don't have it running.
So
onward.
someone brought up rightfully that they're using they're on the terminal of a server install, and what I would suggest if you're in that case is to secure shell in from a different box, because the way that we're doing this with copy and pasting commands over will not work on a raw terminal install. If your server is set up as only the server edition and there's no desktop, you can run IP space A, and well, that's complicated. If you can get the IP of your computer, you can secure shell in from a desktop and operate it from there, but the scope of doing that is a little outside of what we're describing today.
Let's press onwards.
Okay. So next what we're going to do, so basically we started Geth, we ran a status on it to make sure that it was up. Now what we're going to do is enable it. With this command. And now it's for the fun part. So now we are going to sync up the Geth node here with this command. and you're going to see a bunch of information here. Basically, this is a real-time log of the ETH1 Geth node syncing up with the chain, and this is the data, everything that is coming by as it's processing. So it's going to, generally speaking here, what it's trying to do is connect to a peer, and then once it has connected to peers, it's downloading every transaction that has happened on that network.
And so this view looks a lot like if you had just run Geth in the terminal, but what we're actually seeing is just a log file. So when you get done viewing this log file, you can type Control-C, and it will stop this log file, but the system daemon will continue running in the background.
Mm-hmm.
So on Gurley, a lot depends for sync time. It depends on about 3 variables. It depends on your network connection, 4 variables. I'm going to say them all. Your network connection speed, your number of peers, the speed of your hard drive, and the speed of your processor. And so for everyone, it's going to vary significantly how long it takes to sync the Gurley chain. It can take anywhere from 30 minutes to 10 hours. And if you have slower hardware, potentially even longer. So we do not expect that everyone will have Gurley synced before we're done today, but we can continue going on with the tutorial and still finish it.
Absolutely. So this was sort of leg one, if you will, of the workshop. We have opened up the applicable network ports. We've installed and we're now running Go Ethereum. Now what we're going to do are install the dependencies for Lighthouse, which is the ETH2 client for the validator. So the first command to do that is this. It's going to prompt you how you want to proceed with the installation. We're just going to go with defaults.
Wait.
Okay.
Don't go too fast. Someone is still... a few people are behind.
Just while we're waiting, each of the clients, what we're doing here is we're actually going to build Lighthouse on the terminal here, and we're going to pull the software and build it. And so when you do that, you need to download some prerequisites that the compiler is going to need to successfully compile the software. There will be versions later where you don't need to do these steps because we may target the binary. I may target the binary directly, but in this case, we're going to build the software on your machine, and so this is why we need to install this line here, because we need these prerequisites in order to build the software successfully.
So I need to let everyone know. We encourage using desktop install, and the desktop install does not come with curl by default, even though the server version does. So if you're using the desktop version of Ubuntu, you'll need to install both curl and git, and that is sudo apt install curl, and you can do sudo apt install git. We'll need both of those before we finish today.
just a small note to those participating that aren't familiar with Linux. This is one of many ways that you can set this up. So we are, there's no wrong way per se to do this, but just because we are compiling and installing the software in the way we are on this workshop does not necessarily mean this is the only means in which to do it. There are, just like there are multiple ways to copy and paste on a desktop, there are multiple ways in order to set up and configure this machine as well.
Okay, let's wait 1 more minute. I think majority of the people.
Okay,
are
no
done.
problem.
Is curl included in Ubuntu 20 by default?
It's included in the server edition, but not in the desktop edition.
Okay.
Jack, you have a birthday chain to take down.
So someone asks Lighthouse, and that's really a great question. There are right now 4 clients that we're calling launch ready for Mainnet, and these are beacon chain and validator clients. That's actually 2 pieces of software that fit together. One runs the beacon chain, and the other one does your job as a validator. I hope you all can hear Jack, can't you? Anyway, and so Lighthouse is a product developed by Sigma Prime, developed in the Rust language, and it's regarded as a really powerful and stable client targeted at home users. And so it's in the same market as Prism, and it's just a product that we enjoy using.
Right, I think we can continue.
Okay.
Thank you for being patient, I guess.
All right, I'm going to repaste the command again. Let's see here. Okay, so here's the next command we are going to run. It should prompt you how you want to install. We're just going to keep the defaults. So I'm going to hit the number 1 and just hit enter.
You can see there it's downloading something called Rust. Rust is a programming language. So those are supporting files for Rust. And Lighthouse, the client itself, is written in that programming language called Rust. And so when I mentioned before that these are prerequisites, it's basically downloading the components needed to compile a Rust program. And so in a minute, Anvedik is going to grab the code of Lighthouse, and we'll use those Rust prerequisites to build it.
This command is very short, but it's deceivingly complex. It is not one that we've written. It's provided by Rust. And basically, curl is a downloader. It says, hey, download this. And the protocol it should use to download it is HTTPS. The TLS means transport layer security. So, and then it's telling it where to get the program that it wants to run. And then you see the symbol that is the pipe. And it's sending all of this string to a program called SH, which is shell. And so to simplify this command, it says, hey, download this file and run it in the shell. And that's going to install Rust for you.
And just to expand on that a little bit more, on the question of, what is Lighthouse, and continuing off what Samir was saying, that Rust is what Lighthouse uses as the programming language. The other clients are using different languages as well. So that sort of adds to the diversity and network health of Ethereum. By each client being programmed in different languages, it mitigates the possibility of there being a single point of failure. And it also helps, there are also different use cases for each client as well. And that's sort of why they use different languages. How are we looking, guys? Should we wait a little bit longer, or should we go on the next step?
There's 2 people are stuck, but I'm not sure how long we should wait for.
Sure.
What are they stuck on, Buddha?
One guy says that after he presses 1 and enter, he gets abortion installation. I have no idea how to solve that right now. And the other guy, okay, there's only one guy I'm seeing right now.
Okay.
Someone says still downloading, depending on their
right.
internet.
Yep.
In Samir's guide, it says something about changing the path.
Yeah,
Should I do that?
we haven't quite got to that part yet, but that actually was my first question for Samir, about sort of the first gotcha in this process, and I did get hung up on this last night as well. I'm going to run the source command that you've got listed. However, could you clarify for me in your guide when you state, since Rust modifies the path variable, you'll need to log out and log back in. Is that in relation to the server itself, or what are we doing when we're logging in and out?
So we don't need to do that. That's one way of doing it. There's another, it goes on to say, or you can run, there's a command there. I can't remember the exact command.
Yep.
Yeah, that one there. So let me explain this briefly. There is a thing called a path variable. It's kind of tricky to explain what it's all about, but basically it's a way to store information that certain programs need. When they run, they need to know how to find things without explicitly specifying where they are. And so there's this thing called a path and the path variable where you can store information like that. And so when we installed the Rust prerequisites, those are all things that it needs to compile Rust, and I'm not like completely clear on this, but basically the idea around it is that Rust compiler and everything that's associated with it needs information in that path variable, And so what we need to do is we need to put that in there. And so the installer does that for you. But that path variable, it needs to be refreshed. So the system knows about it. And so one way you can do that is you can log out and log back in, and it reloads it when you do that, and it has the latest, refreshed version of it. Alternatively, you can run that line there that you've got pasted in the terminal, and that will do the refresh for you without logging in and out. So in a future guide, I'm going to drop the log in, log out, and just go with this line here. But basically all it's doing is it's saying, hey, refresh that path data information. And so when we run the Rust command to compile, which I think is, make or something like that, it's going to be able to find the resources it needs to do what it needs to do. That's basically what it is.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
This question is, if your connection drops, do you need to restart the Geth download? I think what you're referring to is whether the Geth chain continues to sync, and the service in the background is what takes care of making sure that that chain continues to sync. So if you lose your internet connection or if you reboot your server, then that service will take care of making sure that you continue to sync the chain.
Mm-hmm. And that's a great point. And the reason why we sort of go through the extra step to create that daemon is because when something happens to the machine and it needs to reboot or come back on, this sort of mitigates you having to go in and restart everything. And sort of circling back to what I noted to before, where this is just one of many ways to install and configure a validator. You don't have to do this, create that daemon service, but the caveat to that then is, had we not done it and you had to reboot your machine, you would then have to manually start all of those services again.
I think everybody's caught up now.
Great. Okay.
Other than our one guy with the aborting installation thing, I really don't know what to do with that though.
We can make note of that and look into that after.
Yeah, we can
this.
help note after.
Yeah, this is Francisco. He said it was aborting, but now he's saying that Rust is installed now.
Okay. All right. Perfect.
So it sounds like he's good.
Yeah, someone still has the aborting installation issue, but I have no idea how to solve that.
Okay.
Another thing I'll say, Rust is a programming language. Another thing I'll say, the Lighthouse client is written in Rust. That's just what the client team used to write the program. Another thing I'll say in Linux that caught me off guard at first is that you'll issue commands like the one that Unvetica just issued, and you'll get no feedback. And a lot of the time when that happens, it just means it executed successfully. And so that's, you sort of wonder, wait, did that work or not? And most of the time, yes, it did. It will tell you if it didn't. But it seems to be like no news is good news is sort of the default approach that they seem to take.
No, that's a good point. That's a great point. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next command. So the next thing we need to do is that there's a number of sort of packages or prerequisite software binaries that we need to install before sort of turning on Lighthouse. So that is this command. It's a handful of different packages here. It may prompt you for a password. And then it's just going to download and install those. Again,
those are other bits and pieces, the prerequisites that it needs to be able to compile the Rust program, the Rust software. Zipper, when you yeah, what Fizz said. It doesn't stop the stream. It just sort of keeps going in the background. Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'll tell you, if we got anything right about this, we have good support on hand. Like, I feel good about it. Like, and I know, I'm certain that there's someone at home who's struggling and saying, but I feel like we're hitting that mark pretty well. What was the command for source, home, cargo? So,
Oh, right.
I guess, are you, if you're asking, that command looks correct. And that's just telling Linux where Rust is. Because when you install it, even though it's installed, Linux doesn't know where to find it. And source says, hey, operating system, I'd like you to look in this file for a program. And the operating system's like, oh, okay, I can look there now. That's basically what that does.
Michael, did you run the cargo env command earlier? The source, did you set the source yet?
Yeah, he did
Yes.
that.
Yep.
Oh, okay,
Yep.
because, okay, I just posted it in the Discord, so I think
Oh,
some
okay.
people didn't do that
Oh,
earlier.
okay. Okay. Good catch. Thank
There's
you.
no harm in running it again. I think.
Yeah. And that's, I guess that's what someone said. What was the command? We had a good groove to post that into both places, so I didn't repost.
Notably, if you miss running that command, what will happen is when you compile, when you start compiling Lighthouse, it'll give a command error. There's an example of that, of what that error looks like in the guide, and then if that happens, you just basically run this line or log out and log back in again, and then compile, and it'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Should we press onwards?
I'm all for it. Okay. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to change our directory. And we're just going to go cd space and a little squiggly. Is that tilde? Or no, tilde? Which one is that actually formally called? I don't even know.
I called it tilde.
Okay. And then we're just going to hit enter.
So I want to explain this just quickly.
Yeah.
The reason we did this, it seemed like nothing happened, right? Like we didn't change our directory, which is what CD is. But the reason I have that in there is more for safety, just to make sure that folks are in the right place.
Mm-hmm.
So basically what that does is if you're in some other directory somewhere else, yeah, you might have to do an ls to see, but yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah, you don't have any.
Yeah, I don't know.
But if you're in some other different location, if I want to get you back to, where Anvetica is right there in the terminal, you can do that cd tilde and it sort of gets you back.
Here we go. So if we were in a different directory, like Samir was saying, so right now I'm in the etc folder, and I can see that because it says so right here in my command line, in my prompt. So if we do his command and sort of reset us back and change directory and the tilde, now if we issue
And
it,
I'll say PWD means present working directory. It prints out what your present working directory is.
correct.
Yeah.
So now we can see where.
And Hanko is Anvetica's username. That's the user that he's logged in as.
I don't-
What's wrong with that?
Oh, it's
So throughout the guide, you'll see cd space tilde every now and then. And it's just to make sure you're back to this position here in the terminal. That's all. It's just important that some things get installed in the right place, and so that just running that just ensures that we're all on the same page.
Okay, so I'm going to run the next command, That is going to be this. And what we're doing is we're
Yes.
we're downloading Lighthouse.
CD space tilde takes you to the home directory wherever you are. And so this command, Git, is a tool to manage the Git version control system that was developed by this cool guy called Linus Torvalds. And so we're using Git to clone. That means we're going to make a perfect copy of this repository that's stored on GitHub, which is a service now owned by Microsoft. And the owner of that repository is SIGP, which is Sigma Prime, and the project is Lighthouse, and it's a Git file. So we're cloning the Lighthouse file to our local computer so that we can use that code on our own computer.
Okay, so the next command I'm going to run here. So we've downloaded Lighthouse. Now we're going to change directories into Lighthouse, the folder that was created. So this may have been, I should have pointed this out beforehand, but when I did the PWD and I listed out the directory, there was nothing there. But now because we did that git command and downloaded the files, we'll now see a directory listed there named Lighthouse. So we're just going to change directories. Okay. I'll just sort of wait. Are we all good? I know this next step is going to take a second, so I want to make sure everyone's all set here. Chat's looking good?
Yeah, give them 1 or 2 minutes.
So while we're waiting, you can, if you want to do an LS, we can have a look and see what's inside Lighthouse. LS will just list the contents of a directory. And Envetica used -RLT as well. I'm not exactly sure what those are, but it sort of formats the output in a specific way. But you can see that there's a bunch of files in that Lighthouse directory, and that's what we downloaded from Git. These are all the files, basically the source files that make up Lighthouse. And so the client team, develops these files, and we downloaded it from their source control repository, which is called Git, and it threw all that stuff into the Lighthouse directory. And so what we're going to do with all this stuff is we're going to call a function in a minute to build the software, and what you get out of that is a bunch of stuff, but really the most important thing is a binary. A binary is a file that we can execute. It's like an executable in Windows, and that's going to allow us to run the Lighthouse client.
Some people are still downloading, so.
Okay, no problem. We'll wait then.
And so if you're curious about what this stuff looks like, you can actually go to the Sigma Prime GitHub and actually take a look at the code and have a look and see what it's like. If you're familiar with Rust, you can go and review their code and maybe put in a pull request or something to make some changes if you see something you can improve. So yeah, each of the clients does it this way, by the way. So each of the 4 clients has a Git repository of their code base, and the workflow is very similar. So what we've done so far is we set up our Geth node, which is the Ethereum 1 node. So that's up and running. And now we've pulled the code down from the client's Git repository where their code is stored. And then in a minute, we're going to compile it. We haven't done that yet. But for each of the clients, that workflow is roughly the same. You install some prerequisites, you pull the code down, and then you build it. Yeah, so Mike, in answer to your question, they do provide it, I think. Certainly some of the clients do. I don't know if they all provide the binaries, but I think they do. And so one variation of this is that you, instead of installing prerequisites and compiling the code, you can just grab that executable, that binary from their website, download that, and then run that. The reason I did the guides this way to actually pull the code and build it is because I just wanted to learn how to do all those things. Sometimes it's important for you to be able to understand, how all of that works. And sometimes it's not, but I wanted to, and so that's just, that's the way I did it. Like I said, for Mainnet, it's likely that I'm actually going to go with the downloading the executable directly rather than building it, because it just means you don't have to download and install the prerequisites and pull the source code and everything else. But again, I wanted to learn how to do it, so that's why I did it that way.
And Samir, just to expand on that, the benefit, if you were to do that, download the executable, the package, like you were saying, it would have all the prerequisites all built in and pre-baked for you, right? That's the benefit of doing it?
That's correct. Yeah, in fact, you'd only really need to download a single file.
What we're doing here is building the validator and beacon chain.
Oh, he lagged out.
Well, if people have to do this, then ETH2 is never going to succeed. And the big message here is that we are literally at the beginning. The chain hasn't even launched yet. And so the clients are done and they're finalizing, but in the next few weeks, months, and even years, you're going to see solutions that are easier and easier every day, to the point that at some point you'll be able to literally buy something and plug it in, and it does the job for you. Which Avado and DAppNode are attempting to provide that now. But I don't want people to think that this is the way it's going to be forever. This is just the beginning, and it will become more polished and more engineered over time.
Let's press onwards here.
Yep.
I think we're all good in the chat.
Okay. So just as a reminder, make sure that you've changed directories in the Lighthouse. You're in the Lighthouse directory. You should see that in your command prompt line. So the next command we're going to do is real simple. This is an easy one for everyone. We're just going to type make and then enter. Now this will take a while. In fact, I think I've got a pre-baked one here. Someone remind me what the command is to see once this is compiled. So if we can look at like a live stream of this, verify.
I'm not sure what you mean. I'm sorry.
Sorry, yeah, I didn't do a great job asking that. So once this is done compiling, so I want to show something while this is loading. So I've got a pre-done one here. Is there a way to the command is escaping me to like just look at a log to see like a ETH1 client, see it running?
Yeah, so you do journal control -f -fu and then space Geth, and then I would tab that out to get the full name of the service. So
oh wait, so hold on. Do you want to see the service, or do you want to see the Lighthouse compilation is complete?
Let's do both.
I'm sorry, I interpreted that you wanted to see how well Geth
No, I
is
did.
syncing.
I did, but then
Okay.
Samir put a better idea in my head. Do you want to put the command in the Zoom chat?
Which command were you referring to? I'm sorry. So Samir had an idea that I didn't catch.
The one that you listed first, we can go with that.
Okay.
So just in the chat, a couple of folks are a little confused about the tabs.
Right, so the tabs here, all I did was, this is a feature in Ubuntu. You should see in the upper left-hand corner here, it looks like a little plus sign. Basically, this is just like on your web browser, you're opening up another tab or session. So this is, by default, this is on my local machine now, but I remoted into another server that we've got pre-done, production ready. But this is just another, I can open as many of these as I want for different terminal sessions. Now this is a synced ETH1 node, correct? Superfizz, this is what we're looking at.
Looks like it.
And how would we? Well, we'll compare that. I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves. Yeah, well, I guess Cold Snap just asked the same question. I was going to ask it for the group, but how would we know that, right? So part of that, we'll compare and contrast it when we get to the next steps here, when we actually fire up Lighthouse. But I'll let some of the other mods step in here.
So the best way to see if you're synced is to cross-check with something like EtherScan, and you're going to look at the top, the head of the chain there, and you're going to take that number and compare it with where it says number here. The other easy way to check, and it's not as perfect, is if you just look and see that you're importing one block about every 12 seconds, then chances are very high that you're synced.
So we sort of sidetracked there a little bit, but yeah, the last command was make. Make is compiling the code that we downloaded, and you can see there as it goes through, it says compiling, and then there's a bunch of stuff that it's doing there. It needs to get to 870, and once it gets there, then we're done.
Compiling, not quite. And
while we were doing that, Anvedika jumped over to a different view just to check on the just to have a look and see if he had a Geth node, ETH1 node synced. And Jamie's right, there's a EtherScan link there. It's goearly.etherscan.io. And if you go to that site, it shows you the latest block that's been generated on that chain. And then you can look at your output from your Geth journal call. And then there's a number in there that you can match to the latest block. It's in the guide. The guide has an example of how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So something that's worth calling out as well is that you don't have to really do this very often, but if you do, when you compile the first time, it takes a lot longer because it has to build a bunch of dependencies. The second time you compile, it's often much faster because it has all that stuff that it pre-built or built the previous time. And so, yeah, I mean, again, like it's not something you'll have to do very often, honestly, but it's compiling is resource heavy as well. Generally, compilers will make use of all of the available CPU or nearly all of the available CPU to do that. They do that on purpose, and it's a sort of a controlled approach to getting it done in a highly parallelized way. And that's why it if you look at resources when you're doing that, it often goes close to 100%.
Michael, do you have a browser on this machine? So could you maybe show them that you could also download the binary files instead of building from source? I think that's also faster for people in the future. And it's also the stable version. Some people were complaining that if you just take the master branch, that it might not be stable enough to be used in production. So technically you could just download the pre-built binary file from the GitHub repo.
Do you have the...
Yeah, I can send you. 1 second.
Thanks. And this is just a visual I wanted to... this is running HTOP, which is... I'm going, probably further into the weeds than anyone needs to, but in case there's some that are curious, what Samir was talking about with the compiler running, it being very resource intensive. It is only on the last step here, but we can see this is actually memory consumption and the CPU usage of the machine that we're running on. And if we weren't compiling, this would be much lower. We can see one of the cores is already pegged out at 100%. So this is exactly what he's talking about.
I sent the release link in Zoom.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, Varuk in the chat made a good point. I don't know actually if HTOP is installed by default. You may have to install that. I can't remember if that's a default feature, but if it's not, you can just use top, and it's a less pretty version, but it still gives you the same data information.
HTOP is not installed by default, but I did give instructions. It's very easy. Sudo apt install HTOP, and then HTOP to view it, and then Control-C to exit it. It's very easy to use.
Awesome. Thank you.
And so whenever I enter these commands, I always use a -y. So when I type the command, I do sudo apt install -y HTOP, and that -y just says, yes, I want to do this. If you don't do that, it'll just say, do you want to do this? So it just saves one little step.
Michael, could you show the release of Lighthouse, and that you can download the binaries? That would be awesome.
Yes. Nope, that's the wrong one.
Even though this one takes a bit long, I think going through the command line is still easier.
Mm-hmm. And it just looks cooler. It's more fun.
I mean, yeah, you have the visuals if you download it manually. Yeah.
Did you just want me to show the page, or do you want me to actually go through it?
The assets at the bottom. So where it says binaries, and below binaries, you can download the assets. Yes. So instead of going through git clone, you could also just go to this page and download it directly.
Someone asked again about the POAP, and we haven't mentioned that in a while. The POAP will be distributed to all of the participants in the Discord. my assumption is that you signed up through ETHStaker.cc, and after the call, we will cross-reference the people who were here for the majority of the call, and those people will receive the POAP. So if you've been around ETHStaker any amount of time, you know that we are fans of POAP. POAP stands for Proof of Attendance Protocol. It's a platform that was developed by Patricio Werthalter, who is the 5th ETHStaker. He's not here today. And so essentially what it is a platform that allows you to receive an NFT token. That's a ERC 721 badge that you can sort of keep a collection of to show all the events you've done. It might be a great time, Michael, to switch over to poap.gallery and show people kind of what POAP is. We have a minute while we're building. I know that we're almost done now, but we love POAP. It's a great idea and a great way to show the kinds of things that you've done in the Ethereum world. And so this is the new site, poap.gallery. It's sort of a browser that lets, so rather than a person browser, it's an event browser. And so you can see what events have happened in the past, and you can see how many wallets have collected them. We're working on this new thing called POAP Power that tells sort of like the number of POAPs associated with a person or an event. And yeah, we're all very excited about the growth of this platform. It's not what you'd think of as a monetary platform, because these aren't really designed to be traded or sold, even though that's possible. The real point of POAP is to sort of build a reputation that says, I'm a contributor in the community, or I'm a participant in the community. And the future, it sort of suggests that you'll be able to use this reputation to do other things like participate in raffles, participate in events, get discounts, or maybe just have early access to things that would not be available to the general public.
In fact, that was one of the things that the ETH Staker community just finished up. The last community call that we had Jerome from Ledger on, and after that call, we ended up raffling off a Ledger Nano X, I believe, and that was distributed and raffled off via poap.fun. And that is here. In fact, here is our raffle, and basically exactly what Superfizz was saying. In order to enter that raffle and be eligible for the prize of that Ledger Nano, you had to have had previously collected POAPs, and then the eligible POAPs here for this specific raffle are listed here. So anyone that had one or more of these POAPs were able to enter in, and then after a certain amount of time, it was randomly picked from that pool. So just things you can do current day with those POAPs outside of collecting them. All right, so it looks like mine compiled. How are we looking in the chats? How's everyone doing? Is everyone compiling or having any issues?
Majority of the people are done.
Right.
Some are not. 500 out of 870.
Okay. Well, we can still wait. All right, so we got to... There we go. So it looks like everyone's pretty much in line.
Yeah,
Someone has this BLST pairing init error, undefined reference, and I don't know exactly what causes that, because, and I'm not specifically familiar with that, but I do recall that when I attempted to install Lighthouse on a 10-year-old processor, that it would not compile correctly. Okay. And I banged my head against the wall for a week until I discovered it was that processor did not have, was not compatible. It wouldn't compile on it. I don't know that that's the issue here, but
that does bring up a really great point, and let me link to it. You know, and I was going to close with this, but I think it's a great point to make multiple times. With this whole workshop, as we're helping, you know, everyone here that's participating, by becoming a solo staker, there's sort of an added level of responsibility. So there's an initial responsibility if you're going to just stake your funds in general, and then the added layer of you having to be responsible for the machine itself, in comparison to going with the staking service. It's important to know that you should be aware that not every piece of hardware is going to work and is appropriate to stake on. Superfizz did a great presentation during the ETH Online convention this year. Nolan has a fantastic comprehensive guide. In fact, I'm going to copy it in the Zoom chat here, of going into detail on what's a good, better, best situation for the hardware necessary to actually run the validator itself. So if you haven't already looked into that or become familiar with it, that's a great resource to start.
So I appreciate there are some users in the Discord chat, in the Zoom chat, who are curious about this build error. It was posted into Discord. Let me see if I can get a link from that image and share it to the Zoom chat. It was probably not cool of me to suggest that it's a hardware error. I was just trying to relate that I had an issue with that in the past.
Now, as we sort of prepare for the second leg of this workshop, this is the part where we're going to need some of the prerequisite assets that we asked everyone to obtain or go through when registering for this workshop. But if you hadn't had the time or weren't able to do it or had issues, that's totally fine. So in the chats, if anyone does not already have at least 32 Gorley ETH, can you please let us know so we can get that taken care of for you now, like as we're waiting? That'd be great.
It's a very important public service statement to say that we do not want anyone to run more than one validator on Pyrmont. And the reason for that is a lot of people want to test. And if you submit multiple validators, then it will slow down the queue. Not just for this workshop, but for people on the outside who are trying to get a validator running. One validator and 100 validators pretty much run the same. The only difference is seeing your rewards go up faster. And so it is best just to run one validator here.
No, that's a great point.
Are we good to press on here?
I think so.
I think most people are done
Yep.
compiling.
So just to review here, everything that we've done, we just finished. So we did the first leg, which is we opened up the network ports, we installed and we're running Go Ethereum, and we installed and compiled the Lighthouse, or we installed the Lighthouse dependencies and then compiled everything. So now we're at the point where we can start using these tools and start turning things on and preparing to launch our beacon and validator node. Specifically, we're going to get and deposit Gorley ETH. If you haven't gotten that, we'll figure it out. But next, we're going to generate the validator keys and then complete the Launchpad wizard process. All right. So the first command, so let's change directories again to our home directory. I will put that in the Zoom chat. And then we are going to run the following command. So what we're doing here is we're generating the validator keys, and this is the package necessary to generate those keys. How are we doing? Any static from chat, or keep going?
Someone is asking if they should run, if make install as a command is required for Lighthouse, but I don't think so. At least not now.
Mm-hmm.
You all seem to agree on that, but it confused me. You do have, say that again, please.
Someone asked if they need to run make install. Did we do that?
No, we just ran make.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so the difference is that make creates the binary file, the executable file, but make install puts it in a system accessible place. So.
All right, I'm going to move on here. Stop me if we need to. So we ran the curl command, which downloaded the packages necessary to generate your validator keys. Now what we're going to do is unpack the software that we just downloaded. We're going to use this command.
That's just basically unzipping the file.
Yep.
The archive.
And then once we've got that unpackaged, what we're going to do is we're going to go into that directory that we just downloaded.
So if you're in terminal and you start typing a directory, you can hit tab and it'll auto-complete if there's only one directory that matches what you're typing. It's a little shortcut.
Okay, now once we are in that directory, we're going to clean up some of the files that we just downloaded using the following command.
So there's at least a couple of people still building, but I'm not sure how much longer you guys want to hold off on that.
We can maybe wait a couple minutes just because I want to make sure everyone's...
It can be done. Sorry, it can be done in parallel, yes. This specific part, yeah.
Okay.
And the command that Anvedika just pasted there, the rm-rf, what we're doing there is just deleting that that zip file, basically, or the tar file, more specifically. But that's the archive we downloaded. So we downloaded it, unzipped it, and then or decompressed it or unpacked it or whatever, and now we're just deleting the archive because we have the unzipped contents.
Someone brought up a great point, and my Zoom crashed, so I'm not sure if this has already been addressed. Did we talk about running the deposit generator on the same server that we're running keys on?
Not explicitly, no. but that's where we're just
so
downloading them.
I need to make a huge warning. We are doing this for testnet purposes, and on testnet, it is totally cool to run the deposit generator on the same computer that you are staking from on the testnet. However, in a week or 2 weeks, we're going to begin switching to Mainnet, and you are probably thinking about making a deposit to the validator contract. Do not do that on your staking system. The best practice is to load up a live distribution, something like Tails, and create that seed phrase and back up that seed phrase really well. You want to do what you can to create your deposit keys offline in a secure environment, and then you'll be moving those keys to the live validator. And since we'll show how to do that a little bit here, but it really just means copying a file from your deposit contract setup to the main validator and keeping that 24-word seed phrase completely separate, offline, away from the internet, and safe and secure and written down on paper in 10 different places and in your safety deposit box. You should not use the deposit keys you generate now for Mainnet. They have a different network identifier. So you should carefully generate your Mainnet keys and not use the same setup that you used on testnet.
Okay, I'm going to continue on here. The next thing we're going to do is run the application to generate the validator keys. And we're going to use this command. I'm going to explain this a little bit. I put this number in here. I put 1 in for us because we're only going to run one validator. But if this was mainnet and you wanted to run more validators, this is where you would specify that. So if you have 20, you'd put 20 in there. Same thing here. One of the flags here is we're running on the Piermont testnet. Specifically, again, if this was mainnet, this would be different as well.
Do you know you can also run this command without any flags? If you just run /deposit, it will ask you these things interactively, which I think is pretty cool.
Do you want me to do that?
It's up to you. I don't. Well, if you run this, you're going to need to remove where it says number of validators and angle braces. But this is fine. I prefer to run it interactively. But
yeah, no, let's do that. I think that'll be good for everyone to see. Great point. So let's just run that. And we'll paste this in the chat.
And so it will even ask you if you want to restore from a seed or if you want to use a new excuse me, a new mnemonic.
Okay, so this is what Superfizz is talking about. We're sort of running, basically this is like a text-based wizard. So it's going to ask us a few questions. In my case, I'm going to put English. It's going to ask again, just what we were saying before, how many validators. In this case, it's just going to be 1. And then it's going to ask us which mainnet or testnet do we want to be on. And in our case, we are going to do Piermont. It's going to ask us for a password to secure our validator keys. This is something that it's a good idea to write down and remember and know where you stored it. We will be referencing this later. Okay, this is our secret seed phrase. Now, this is something, again, we're displaying in public view because this is a workshop, but this is something, if you were doing on your own, setting up for Mainnet, first and foremost, you would never, ever, ever share this with anyone for any reason. This effectively is the keys to the validator and your funds. Whoever owns this key owns then the access to your funds and can do what they want with it. So it's incredibly important that you're keeping it safe, you're storing it in a safe location, you're not taking a photo of it that's then syncing to iCloud or storing it in something like in a cloud-based solution. You want this physically written down, probably somewhere in a physical location that only you know where it is. So.
And so we've had a request to pause, so
sure.
Let's take just a minute. This seed phrase can be used to generate everything in the future that you will ever need for your ETH2 validator. It can generate new validator keys. It can regenerate old validator keys. It can generate your withdrawal keys. And so while other keys are important, they are all derived from this seed phrase. So someone else asked if you want to make some deposits from different addresses. I think, Nolan, didn't you do that?
Yeah, so through Launchpad, you can generate multiple keys. And then when you're actually doing, so say you want to make 5 deposits from 5 different addresses, you can make 5 keys through Launchpad and do 5 separate deposits from different ETH1 addresses, all to those same keys, and they'll all have the same mnemonic.
What I didn't see about this, when I run the deposit script without any flags, it will say which deposit do you want to begin the index from, and so that'll give the opportunity, like you created 4 keys last week, but you want a new one, then you can begin from index 4 and it will create the 5th key. Did that happen today? Did I just miss it? Or maybe it only occurs if you run the script without any flags. Where do you enter that mnemonic to restore? Hey, Michael, will you go ahead and run that script one more time?
Yeah.
We already have our key, so we can't break anything. We can still play around this with the script. And so when you've saved this, I was going to ask you to confirm it.
Oh,
well,
sorry.
So your keys were not generated, which is fine. We're just going to go through the process again. Run just run just /deposit and back up over the new mnemonic. The first question it's going to ask you is go. And so if you want to create keys again later, you would choose existing mnemonic, and then it's going to say what index do you want to begin from. And so let's say today I'm creating my new keys, but tomorrow I come back and I want to create more keys. Then I would do /deposit existing mnemonic. I would enter my 24-word seed phrase, and the next question is going to say, well, how many have you already created? And you'll say, well, I've created 4. And it'll say, how many do you want? And you'll say 2. And then it will create indexes 5 and 6 from that point. It's very handy. And so, yeah, now we'll need to create. I'm sorry. Let me tell you for reference, if you're playing with a deposit tool, you can create as many keys as you choose. That does not have any impact on the network. The time you begin having impact on the network is when you go to Launchpad and begin sending deposits for those validators. If you send deposits for a lot of validators, it can, especially on testnet, it can clog things up. And to be fair, when I say a lot of validators, I mean like 10,000 validators. It's okay if you decide to test with 1 or 2 or 3. We encourage 1, but it's totally fine if you feel like you have a real need and you need to test 2 or 3 or 4. That's really okay. So just to confirm, would you do, I'm reading a question here. Let me catch up on a few of these. Would you do /deposit and then type the command for existing mnemonic to get your keys? No. To create keys, you type new mnemonic. After you've created keys and you have them backed up, if you need to come back, then you type /deposit existing mnemonic, and it will let you resume or create more. We are going to describe the process of adding a validator. There's one more question I missed. Okay. Yes, you're going to do all of these steps again on Mainnet so that they're real. This is only a demo because when you're dealing with $15,000, you want to make sure that you have tested it and that you know how to get all the way through the process because the last thing anyone wants to happen is that you've decided to do it and you've sent your Ether and then you have difficulty getting through the process and feel stuck. So you will repeat every single one of these steps for Mainnet. I'm done, Michael.
Oh, no, you're fine. This is great information. We all need to hear this. This is great. Okay. I don't want to go too ahead here, but so what I've done here, if we can look at my terminal, those participating finished running the key generator. We can see that everything is run successfully. And then also that it gives us the location of those keys. So we're going to go ahead and copy that location because we're going to refer to that later. Okay. So now the next step is we're actually going to transition over to the Piermont Launchpad. And the URL is in the chat. It's piermont.launchpad.ethereum.org. And let me share that. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to hit the Get Started button. And then I don't want to breeze through these too quickly, but effectively this is sort of reinforcing what we've been saying. It's making sure that you're using best practices and that you fully understand exactly what you are getting yourself into by staking, and then the responsibility you have for keeping things safe, like your key management. We're just going to go through this. Yes, we're signing up. We understand the responsibilities. We have links here to fully explain what it is we're signing up for. We're going to accept those. Risks of slashing. We will accept that. Again, our key management. There is a transfer delay. We will talk more about that in a bit after we get things going. And just reaffirming the long-term commitment. And that really is in relation to your Ether being locked up for probably at least 2 years, and that you won't be able to take these things in and out as you please. And just, again, confirming the early adopter risks here. So we'll go ahead and continue. Now we've done some...
Could you wait here? Could
Yep,
you wait here?
Yep.
Thank you.
No problem.
So some people are typing their seats. I think they didn't copy it.
Oh, okay.
Instead, they wrote it down.
So some good news lately is that Ledger Nano X is now providing support for ETH2. And right now, it's described as nascent, which means the proof of concept exists and you can install it. However, the reality of it is not exciting yet. So I wouldn't urge you to depend on it yet. And the features are limited. But the exciting part is that the proof of concept exists, which, for those who don't know, ETH2 relies on a bright new shiny cryptography standard, BLS 12-381, that is brand new. So, well, let me clarify that. It's newly audited, I guess would be the way to say it. So it's been around, it's been in testing for a long time, and it's just sort of now getting the stamps of approval that it's secure. But it's exciting that Ledger has implemented it. It tells us that going forward, using at least the Ledger Nano X, you'll be able to access your keys and keep them secure there. Now, I'm a fan of the Ledger Nano S. I've used it for a long time, but that does not have the hardware or memory support for it.
Mm-hmm.
But still exciting to know. If you're on Mainnet and you're doing your setup, so kind of as we said earlier, the best things you can do for Mainnet are secure your system. That is installing the UFW uncomplicated firewall that we talked about earlier, and installing your Ether1 chain. And so here we see on the screen Nethermind, Besu, Open Ethereum, and Geth. All of these are fine. I do, as a human, I develop preferences and I prefer Geth, but I encourage you to try any of these. They all work well. And so if you're getting ready for Mainnet, you would probably go as far as installing an ETH1 client and then wait. I would not encourage at this time installing a Beacon Chain client, because I know that they will have Mainnet releases ready after the deposit contract minimum is met. I do not know. Someone asked about Trezor being beneficial, and I heard someone mentioned that it was not compatible, but I can't vouch for that. I don't actually know. Trezor is at this point an older piece of hardware. I would not expect that it can support it, but I mean, shout out to Slush. I just don't know. I do not think it's going to support ETH2.
All right, how are we looking? Should we keep waiting or press on here?
I think there are 2 people who are having issues in the Discord, but they're pretty far behind.
Okay.
I do not observe people who are asking for more time in Zoom.
Okay, I think we can continue.
Yeah. Okay. We can always help them out afterwards.
Can I answer one more question, Michael?
Yeah, please.
Because a lot of these are valid questions. So someone wants to know how people are signing up for Mainnet validators if the Mainnet clients aren't released yet. And it's a factor of this being a brand new network. And so the network has not actually launched, and the network cannot launch until validator clients are all up and ready. But before that can happen, we have to have deposits submitted. So there is this gap, and the gap is, first we create validator deposits and we get our validator keys, and then we wait until those the validator software is released to set up our validator client. There is a guaranteed wait of 7 days between the day the deposit contract meets its minimum and the day the network can launch. And that 7 days is when everyone will have time to put all of their pieces in place and get ready to go.
All right. I'm going to continue on here. So going back to the Launchpad screen, some of these steps we'd already previously done. You can see that we've chosen and set up our ETH1 node, so we're just going to go continue. In our case, we are choosing Lighthouse, but again, these are the other clients available. If you do choose to adopt a different one, that is more than welcome. Your options are available here. All right, and here we're going to set up how many validators we would like to run. In our case, we're just going to do the one. We are on an Linux-based Ubuntu operating system, so we're going to choose Linux.
And importantly, the number of validators should match what you put in for that deposit tool in the command line. So a little while ago, you specified one validator. It should match. You should match that to here as well.
Great point. Thank you. So we are going to choose the download CLI app. And then download here.
People are saying the YouTube stream's not showing the right thing.
No? Yeah, maybe I'll just stop the stream. Are they following along on there? Because oops. Oh, I know what they're getting at. Okay, 1 second.
So while we're here, I'd like to thank both Michael, who you know is Envetica, and Lamboshi, aka Nolan. These guys have poured a ton of time and effort into getting this workshop up and ready. And the reason right now that people on YouTube are seeing a delay is because Michael just learned to use OBS and he is kicking butt with it. So he's adding new skills to our team. He's doing a lot of great work. And so if you guys run across Lamboshi or Envetica, please thank them for caring enough to help people learn to do this, because I know it was a lot of effort for both of them. Yeah, and
Okay, I believe they should be good now on the stream. Okay. Right, so we are downloading the app here.
So actually, we already did that. This is the, I guess if you go to the Launchpad, it basically says once you get to this point, it's time to generate your keys, and that's CLI. The CLI app is the tool that we downloaded and unzipped previously and ran. And so so we sort of done that in slightly in reverse order, but basically you can see there, yeah, there's the line there. So we've already done that.
Great. Okay, so now what we want to do is, the same thing. So we've saved our keys. We know where they are. That was the, in fact, let me switch over.
I see someone asking for a quick recap of the last two steps, and I don't have that in my head.
The last two steps, let's see here. Prior to getting to Launchpad, I'm assuming.
I guess I could say that we built Lighthouse, and then we downloaded the deposit CLI app. Okay, and we ran that app. And we specified. We got our memnomic, and we filled in all those options like with English and all of those things. And when we run that tool, we get some files. It generates some files. And if you guys want to talk about those files, we can probably resume from there, because those are the files that we need to move forward.
All right. Yes. So this is what Samir is talking about. This is where we need to download the keys that we had generated and then upload them to this Launchpad. So let me get those commands real quick. I'm going to jump back to terminal.
Yeah, perfect. You can see there's a path there.
Yep.
And so when you run the tool, it generates this nice picture of what's that? What's it called? The hippo? The hippo? She has a name. I can't remember. Anyway, so it says success. Your keys can be found at that location. And so what it did is basically it took all our input, applied our memnomic and everything else, and generated a bunch of files, and they're stored in the validator keys directory there. And so if you want to jump over there, we can have a look and see what's in there.
Yeah.
And so that's Leslie.
That's it.
What is I forgot what Leslie is all of a sudden. Rhinoceros? Is that? So anyway, it's named after Leslie Lamport, who is a very well-regarded computer scientist.
So we have two files in there. One is the keystore M file. That's the first one listed there. And the second one is deposit data. So the keystore M, it has a bunch of information in there about your validator key, the network it's targeting, the public key associated with your validator, and other things like that that relate to that key. The second item in that folder is the deposit data, and that's the information that it's generated that's going to help you make your deposit to the testnet. And we're going to need to use that in just a minute, and Anvedika will show you how we're going to use that in a second to make the deposit.
Absolutely.
Or maybe later on after we stand up the validator, whichever order you guys are going to do it.
Yep, I think I'm going to do that now. I'm just making up the command. I didn't pre-do this real quick. Where do I want to put this? So, I should have thought of this earlier. This may confuse a couple people. There are multiple ways to do this, but I'm going to throw one option at you. The reason I say this could throw you off is because if you are not SSH'd into your validator node, this could present a problem, but we're just going to try it anyway. I'm going to create a new tab here. I'm in a different... Right now, I'm on my local machine. This is my local environment. I am not in the validator. And I am going to run this command. I'm just going to first paste it to explain what it's doing, and then I'll put it into the group chat. But SCP is basically like it's a remote copy command. Think of this like an FTP client. We're remoting into, this is the name of the server and the IP address allocated to my validator. So it's saying log into this machine, go to this location, which is the location of the keys that we had just generated. And then it's saying, because I'm issuing this on my local machine, it's saying take those files at this machine and then copy them here at the directory that I just created. So when I give this command in the chat, what you'll have to do is change first the location of the username of your machine and IP address, and then you'll have to create a location in which to store them on your local machine. Correct. Yep. And Fizz is absolutely correct too. For those following in the chat, the simplest way is to use a USB drive. just copy and paste from the drive and install it in your local machine. But for this specific example, to get past this point, I'm just going to use SCP.
Well, and the reason we say that is because on Mainnet, we don't really want you to connect your generation box to, so we don't want you to connect the box where you create the keys to the network to make that transfer. And so using a thumb drive can allow you to do an air-gapped transfer of those keys. But really, there are 100,000 ways to do anything, and as long as you're being generally safe, then you don't really have a whole lot to worry about. But the more secure you can be, the better off you will be in the long run.
Correct. Okay, so now I've got these keys on my local machine, and let me switch over to the Launchpad.
Yeah, this part is a little bit tricky. Basically, the workflow is on a machine you run the deposit tool, right, to generate these files, and then one of those files you're going to need to upload here on the screen right now. And so what you need to do is, if you do that on a machine that has a web browser, then of course you can just find the file and upload it. If you do it on a machine like a server that doesn't have a web browser, you need to get the generated deposit data file and move it from the server to a machine that does have a web browser. And so that's what Anvedika did there. He took that generated file from one machine and moved it to the other machine, so then it's available for us to upload into this website. And so by uploading it here, where that file has data inside it that describes your deposit to the testnet, and submitting it here will then allow us to continue with the process.
Mm-hmm.
So we generate the files using the tool, and then we move that deposit data file to a computer with a web browser, and then we're going to drag it in here or browse to it and select it, so then we can move forward. And that's what we've done.
Just going to give a couple minutes for those to catch up, just in case.
You can see there's a lot of activity in the chat about this. This is can be really challenging if you're not sure what you're doing. It's not that difficult, but you just need to know the right way to go about doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's lots of information here that folks are sharing, or there are things online that can help you understand how to move this deposit data file from one machine to another using various commands. I don't, correct me guys if I'm wrong, but I don't think there's anything sensitive in this deposit data file. Is that correct?
That's correct. The deposit data file is just an identifier for your index. It tells the network what index you're submitting a deposit for. Actually, not the index, because the index is a number, but which public key you're submitting a validator for. And so I said index. You upload your public key here, you submit a 32 Ether deposit, and then when you get on the network, you are assigned an index number, which is your validator's number on the network.
All right, I think I'm going to continue on unless we've got anything in the chat. Okay, so we can see here by the Launchpad, I've got the file uploaded here, and it's successfully giving us a nice pretty green check mark, so we're going to continue. And now we're going to connect our MetaMask wallet. Again, hopefully you should have set this up beforehand. We're now going to deposit in this case, our test Ether, but for Mainnet, this is where you would actually deposit your Mainnet ETH. going to temporarily hide this.
So I just heard a great suggestion. Thank you, Jamie. It's a good idea. That it might be helpful for ETHStaker to do a similar video to this that just shows people how to deposit on Mainnet. Because some of what we've seen are people who didn't understand using Launchpad, and they are just sending 32 Ether deposits directly to that contract address, and it will bounce back. But we know those people are frustrated because they don't know what they're supposed to be doing, and because it's pseudo-anonymous, we don't know how to reach out to them and say, hey, you have to go to Launchpad and do this correctly. So that might be a good idea for us in the next week or so.
That's a great idea. All right.
There's a few folks that are asking for a pause there.
Okay. We can totally do that.
In what directory do we enter secure copy, Hanko?
That can,
so those are actually absolute paths. You can go ahead. I'm sorry.
No,
you can enter that anywhere.
Yep. Yeah, I was just gonna say the same thing. So it's less important where you run it because, like Superfizz says, they're absolute, which means that it's gonna take the paths literally. But what is important here is that you're running that on your local machine and not on the validator.
So a couple things to clarify. Do we use the same wallet address for Mainnet as well? No, this is a test net, and your most secure option is to use a completely different setup. What people are not used to is that this is software development. So like we are creating something that's never been done before, and so the test net is not related by data in any way to Mainnet. And so the best thing that you can do when you're ready for Mainnet is to use a completely clean slate. That includes a different wallet address. It is possible to use the same wallet address on Gurley and on Mainnet, but it wouldn't be considered best practice. And this question is, where do I go after going to Pyrmont? And I do not understand that question. Why doesn't Pyrmont rhyme with anything? What do I do after I see this site? Can you help with that, Michael? Because I'm not caught up on the flow.
Yeah, I'm not.
That's the download page for the deposit CLI binaries. So you'd want to download, I mean, if you haven't already run the curl command, you can download the Linux AMD 64.tar.gz. It's 14.6 megabytes. And then you can extract that and go /deposit to run the deposit CLI. Most of you should have already done that step though.
Yep. Yeah, if you followed this workshop, we had already done that.
I'm just posting that link there's a few people that fell behind a bit.
Okay.
I'm just working to get them caught up.
Awesome.
Hey, can you pull up the Michael, the directory listing of the validator keys so I can chat about what we're seeing there?
Yeah. Do you want me to just pull up a terminal?
Yes, please. And let's make sure the YouTube people also.
Yep. That should be good now.
Okay. So, and if you can exit that for a moment.
Is that what you wanted?
Well, I see a static terminal view. It looks like you're in Nano or something. So I'd like to see a command prompt and then a listing of the validator keys directory. Yes, ls. Do ls-l. Okay, so in this directory, we see two files, and this is what's created by the deposit contract tool. And at the top, you see deposit data, and if you cat that, CAT, and then deposit tab. And so what you see here is the public key at the top. This is what we're uploading to the deposit contract to tell the Ethereum 1 network, hey, Ethereum 1, I am a new validator, and when I join the network, this is my public key, and look out for me. So we're uploading this to ETH1, and we are telling ETH1 what our public key will be. And that is the deposit data file. The next file, keystore-m, a lot of this will look the same for everyone, keystore-m 12-381, and the next few numbers are a key derivation path. And so for the first key, when we're looking up here, it's going to be, everyone's going to see 12-381, everyone's going to see 3600, 00, and then for the very first key you submit, you're going to see a 0. The next one's going to be a 1. So I think that's just a timestamp. But if you back up a little bit to that third 0, yes, that third 0, that's your first key. The next key you generate will be a 1. The next key you generate will be a 2. And that's how you can see that you have different keys. This key store file is what your validator needs to run the validator on the beacon chain network. So if you think about this, we have one file that the ETH1 network needs, and we have one file that the ETH2 network needs, and those are bridged to create your validator.
And importantly, if you have more than one validator, you would have multiple key store files, as Fizz just explained. That 0 would become a 1 and a 2 and a 3, and you would have a single deposit data file that encapsulates all of the key information.
All right, how are we looking in the chat? Okay to press forward?
Some people are not sure what I'm saying about the 3 zeros. So those 3 zeros are a derivation path. They tell, so if you've ever used a ledger is going to ask what your derivation path is. There's this really awesome site by Ian Coleman. So I hope somebody will find this and paste a link for it. It's the Ian Coleman BIP39 generator. And if you have time to spend 15 or 20 minutes playing with that, you can really see how keys are generated using different paths. And so if any of these numbers were changed, the key store would be generated at a different path, and it would work very differently. So the Launchpad takes care of all of this for you, but the data is still important for the network. You can't, if you're using the Launchpad, you can't get it wrong. That is the whole point of the Launchpad. But if you were doing this on your own, it would be very easy to get the wrong derivation path. If you create new validators down the road, yes, you would have new key store JSON files that you would take to your validator, and you would essentially restart your validator, and it will see those keys and add them to your validator. And so I think that I'm done, Michael.
You're good. This is great. This is really great information. All right, so I'm going to switch gears and go back to the Launchpad. All right. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with MetaMask, after you've signed in, what I had to do, and what you will probably have to do as well, is there's a little drop-down menu up top. By default, it's always going to be on the mainnet. We need to choose the Go Early test network. So just make sure that the MetaMask sees Launchpad. We can see we've got more than enough to get depositing here. So I'm going to go ahead and continue. then we've got a summary. So yep, we just want the one. We're just going to deposit 32 Gorley. We understand the risks involved. We're not being phished. We're on a secure network. And we're all set here. So I'm going to go ahead and continue. All right, now this is the fun part. This is where it all comes together. We're going to initiate the transaction and deposit everything onto the testnet. So we're going to initiate the transaction. We're going to confirm this is depositing again the 32 Gorley ETH, and we can watch this transaction happen on Etherscan. We might as well. Oh, there we go. Now we're successful. And we've made our deposit. So we're going to go ahead and click continue. And go back to our guide here.
Yeah, so you want to grab your address from MetaMask?
Yep.
Yeah.
That is good. Actually, that's a good point. I should probably share that. So those of you not familiar with MetaMask.
This is a great time to talk about Beacon Chain. So our friend Budo works for Beacon Chain. They are under the company Bitfly, and they are a tremendous community service. They run an open source Ethereum 2 Explorer, and one of our favorite features is that you can take an ETH1 address where you submitted a deposit and search for it on Beacon Chain, and it will show you which validators are associated with that address, which Michael is about to tell you. I'm sorry, I just stole it.
No. This is great. So we're on there now, and what I did here, let me actually back up a second. So we're on the Beacon Chain site. I've gone into the Gorley testnet MetaMask account. I'm just gonna, if you hover over the account one here and you just click it, that'll copy your wallet address. That's what we're really after here. And we're just gonna put it into the top search and then hit enter. And now we'll be able to sort of see the progress of our validator. And we can see everything, you know, the data on the chain here. This is our address. This is our validator key. And if we go in here, we can see the status of what's actually happening on chain. So everything is pending at the moment. All right, let's go back to the terminal. So now what we're going to do is create the validator wallet. And I'm going to use this command.
So we had practice before creating a system service for Geth, and we're going to repeat a very similar process now for creating a system process for Lighthouse. They're called system daemons, but some people struggle with the concept of daemon. A daemon is just a process that runs in the background and will not die.
And then Samir, for the this next step, creating this, I'll just post the raw command. I want to make sure I'm doing it justice. When you're referencing the your username, is that the host username? So in this, it would be Hanko in this case. Is that correct? Did you hear me?
Oh, sorry, are you talking to me?
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah. So the for this step here, you've got the
yeah, that's the username that you've logged in as. So what we're doing, yeah, that would be Hanko. So what we're doing here is that we want to give the current logged in user, in this case Hanko, we want to give them access to varlib Lighthouse. And we're just going to do that temporarily for the purposes of generating generating the wallet. Okay, so the service can't create the wallet, and so we can't run that command under the service. So we need to run it under some user, and so we'll do that with the logged in user.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why we put your username there. And so whatever user you are, whatever your username is, you would put that there in place of Hanko.
Okay.
Hey, Michael, we need to switch the YouTube.
Oh, yep. Thank you. Great catch.
I'd like to bring something up. So I recently did a video after speaking with Jim McDonald about best practices for not being slashed. And one of those recommendations was to not restart the validator within the same epoch because of the likelihood that you would submit a double vote. And there is actually a way to enforce that in the systemd setup. And I want to say it's under the restart command. That might be something worth looking at. And are you able right now to pull up? Have we haven't created that systemd file yet, have we?
Not yet.
Okay, so when we do, I'll talk about that restart wait flag.
Okay. All right. So now the next thing, we need to go back to our Lighthouse directory. So we're just going to change directories to Lighthouse. Oops. Why is that not? Okay. Now this next command, I'm going to put the example in the chat and then explain that you need to adjust this. So it's going to ask for, I'll put this in the terminal so we can reference. It's asking for the directory to your validator keys. This is what was given to us before. So in my case, let me delete this. Show the real command. We need the absolute path. It's going to look something like this. So this is
it looks like you skipped over CDing into the Lighthouse directory. So before you did this, everyone would need to do CD Lighthouse or CD_Lighthouse to get to this directory.
correct.
Let's just talk through this. So what we're doing here is we're creating a wallet. We're uploading our validator key into Lighthouse by creating a wallet. This is an import process where we take the key that we generated using that deposit CLI tool, we're going to use that key to upload that into the validator account for Lighthouse. And so this command, basically, we need to be inside the Lighthouse directory because we're actually calling Lighthouse. That's the first word. Lighthouse is the binary that we're telling, hey, run this, and then supply a whole bunch of parameters. And what we're doing is the first flag is testnet. So that's obviously Piermont. That's our testnet that we're targeting. Account validator import is a sequence of commands telling it, hey, we're importing validator keys into the client, right, into Lighthouse. Directory, the next flag there, just tells it where your keys are actually at. And so that's those validator keys that we generated. If you're not sure where they are, you can just like do CD tilde, and if you do ls, it'll list all the directories there, and you'll be able to find the name of that directory. And so it's going to be home / you've got 2 homes there. I don't know if that's going to be a problem.
Yeah,
you might need to delete the second one. And so you provide a path to that folder, which is validator_keys. And then the data dir is basically where it's going to store this wallet information, and that's in var lib Lighthouse. And if you recall, previously we gave access to our own user account, Hanko in this case, write access to be able to make changes in that directory. And so that's why that step was important. It's a little bit tricky, so hopefully you guys are able to follow along there, but that's basically what we're going to do now.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and issue this command.
This is a one-time command.
Yep.
So what it's telling you here, that warning in capitals there, it's basically saying, hey, this key store file that has your validator in it, do not use that on another client simultaneously, or you will get slashed. And so you need to be careful about this. If you generate multiple key stores that you want to use in multiple clients, you need to keep them all separate. If you run 2 keys, the same key with 2 different clients simultaneously, you will get slashed. Or even with the same.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Samir.
No, you go ahead. I'm done.
From that perspective, it's better to do a simple approach and risk some occasional leakage than to focus on killer redundancy and perfect uptime. You will be more successful in the long run if you do a simple approach and take things slow than if you duplicate your efforts and wind up getting slashed.
And to answer that question in chat there, if you wanted to use a different client, you could use this key store in a different client. Just be sure that you're not doing it at the same time as, or within the same epoch as when you were doing it with the previous client.
And our rule of thumb there is to wait 13 minutes between ending one session and beginning a new session. So if you run Lighthouse and you stop it, wait 13 minutes and then restart it. That is an absolute guarantee that you're not going to wind up in any trouble. Even if you do restart it quickly, the odds are very low of any trouble, but we're looking for safety. So 13 minutes is safe.
All right, are we good to continue on here, or how are we looking in chats?
Some people are struggling with MetaMask still.
Okay.
The chats, other than that, it's looking pretty good though. We might have some people trying to figure out where their validator keys are stored.
Yep.
Our overall goal here is to help everyone get through. Even if we feel like we need to press through and finish, that's not the end of it. We still have plenty of support available on all of the ETH Staker communities. And so I don't want anyone I know it's frustrating if you're stuck. We want to catch everyone up, but if for some reason we can't, we're definitely going to take care of you afterwards. You are important to our community. So Joshua's asking, I have the site. I don't know exactly where to go. Can you tell me what site you're in? You cannot deposit. So Josh, if you're on Puremont.launchpad.ethereum.org. It sounds like that's a problem with MetaMask. Do you have 32 girly ether ready? Yes. So we did talk about switching MetaMask from mainnet to the girly testnet, right? So
Correct. Yep.
Can you see 32 girly ETH in MetaMask right now? Okay. So can you tell me where? Okay, Josh, I'm waiting for you to tell me what the next thing that. So you should be able to upload that key store file. I'm sorry, not the key store file, the deposit data file. And yes, so you're asking about the deposit data file. The deposit data file is, and so this is actually, it's going back pretty far, and I hate to, I'm going to tell you what, Josh, let's catch up afterwards. Follow along, because you can still continue to do everything, and we'll help you get your deposit data file uploaded as soon as we're done with this, okay? Yeah, good. Okay, let's go ahead.
Okay. Alrighty. So, back on the terminal here, we issued the command. Now it's asking us for the key store password. If you remember back setting up our deposit keys, we had generated a password. This is going to be that same one. All right. So we're all set there. Now we're going to remove permissions with the following command. All right, and that single-handedly created our validator wallet. So the next step here is to configure the beacon node. We are going to set up an account.
So someone is saying you removed permission for root. Shouldn't it be Hanko?
Oh, right.
Well,
yep. That's a good call, too.
Well, so who's running the process? Samir, will you clarify this for us?
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, so you issued the right command. Basically, you just changed it from Hanko to root is basically what you did. So we just overwrote the permissions using this command for the Lighthouse directory and assigned them to root. So Hanko doesn't have access to that directory anymore. And so if someone hacks Hanko's password and can get onto the machine as Hanko, he or she won't be able to access that particular directory in theory.
You got to change to a terminal on YouTube, Michael.
Thank you. Okay, so next step here, setting up the account with the following command.
Yeah, we're gonna set up Lighthouse to have access in a minute.
So I see someone who is stuck. Let me clarify, because I think it's just one step to catch up. After congratulations on the Launchpad, you'll switch back to a terminal, and then we're going to get Lighthouse up and running. All you need to do that is do cd:/Lighthouse, and there is a command to run Lighthouse. It's pasted on Summer Asat's blog, and wait, we're not running Lighthouse like that. Oh, that was importing the keys. You'll need to import the keys with that, and then you can catch up with us. I hope that wasn't too simplistic, but the person who is on the congratulations screen, yes, it's worth catching you up. Michael, can you go back to when you imported keys into Lighthouse?
Yes.
Are you able to show that one more time?
On
Because
the,
this person got the upload and they have the key store. They just need to, their next step would be to import them and then catch up with us.
onto the import them on the Launchpad.
No, importing them. And didn't we import the Lighthouse key store? Or did I imagine that?
Oh, we did that. Let me see if I can paste the commands. It might be easier just to paste them rather than change our terminal view
Yeah,
here.
good. So if you could post that into Discord, and I don't want to derail us, but this person is so close to being all the way with us.
So you want to do...
And so the thing that I need to remind everybody 100 times is the first time you do this, it does seem overwhelming and complicated. Having done this 1,000 times, I feel like I can sit down blindfolded and do it in the dark in 6 commands. So it does seem really hard right now, but as things move forward, they're going to become so much simpler. You're choosing to participate in something at its genesis, and that's a choice you're taking, and there's a lot of responsibility that comes along with that, and there are also significant gains that come along with it. So please don't feel like you have to do this now if this is stressful and complicated. It will get easier, and it's probably not as bad as it seems right now.
Michael,
yeah, someone said this: the difficulty is our opportunity, and that is the truth. If this were easy, then it probably wouldn't be as big of an opportunity.
Michael, can you paste the actual? Can you just go up in your terminal, like to the last few commands, and paste the actual Lighthouse? Yeah, that one. Can you paste that? Because the path is going to be the same. They just have to change that username from Hanko to whatever their username is. Oh, and I probably need the they'll probably need the this is a little bit tricky. They'll probably need the permissions as well.
Mm.
So you want to go like up 2 more or something. Yeah.
And so what we're doing right now is Hanko doesn't really have access to import keys. So we need to give Hanko access to import keys. If you are caught up, don't do anything right now. We're showing how you would give Hanko access to import keys, then you would import the keys, and then you would change it back to root access so that if Hanko gets hacked, that someone else can't take advantage of the account. So for this case, you would do this command, and Michael does not need to run that, but for the person who got behind, you would do that, and Michael, show the next command. Then you would do an import, and after you've done that, then you would change the permissions back to root. And yes, someone is pasting that there, and I think in just a minute we'll all be caught up. Yes, and make sure that wherever you see Hanko, you're using your username and not that. I think it was worth it.
Okay, we should continue.
Okay.
So the next line that he's got there after the root, he added the no create home Lighthouse beacon. Lighthouse beacon is the name of the account that we're going to run the Lighthouse beacon node under. And the no create home just basically says make this account so the users, it's not an account where someone can log in. And that's a little bit more secure.
Okay, love it. All right, so now we're going to create the data directory for the beacon node, the following command.
And that's where your beacon data is saved. So the beacon node connects to your ETH1 node, and and pulls in that data, and that directory path is where your beacon node database is saved.
And then what we're going to do is give the system permissions to that directory we just created. With
The
this
Lighthouse
command.
beacon is the user for the service, and we're going to give Lighthouse beacon access to that location. So when it runs, it can write files into that location.
All right, so now what we're going to do is copy over the compiled binaries from Lighthouse to the directory, to our local directory. We're going to use this command.
So when we built back earlier on, when we compiled Lighthouse,
Mhm.
it produced a binary in that location. So in cargo bin Lighthouse, Lighthouse is the actual name of the binary file, and we're just copying that into user local bin because that's a place where we can run, we can run programs from that location. It's a little bit cleaner. And so the Lighthouse service, when we configure it, is going to use user local bin /Lighthouse to actually execute the binary.
All right. So now what we're going to do is create the systemd service. If this is all sort of vaguely sounding familiar, these are roughly kind of the same cookie cutter steps that we followed for the ETH1 node. So we're just kind of recycling those for the ETH2 node here. So we are going to open up Nano again. Oh. And we are going to paste in commands for a file, which are here. And I'm just going to wait and pause for a little bit for everyone to catch up on that in case we have any issues.
So this restart sec, if you see that is where I'm not really ready to say this. I would not do this in production yet, even though I do think it's probably best practice. As someone who wants to follow best practice, I also want to have this suggestion vetted by other people. But if I were doing this, I would probably change restart sec to whatever 13 times 60 is. And that would cause the service to pause 13 minutes between restarts to completely remove the risk of any double votes. Just because I'm saying that now, it's not necessarily something that you should commit to. It's something we want to learn more about, and as we move forward, we'll just determine whether it's the best route or not.
So just to explain what's happening here, this is a service configuration file like the one we saw for the Geth node, the ETH1 node. The user is Lighthouse Beacon, which we created before. The exec start is where all the action happens. And so remember I said that the binary is in user local bin Lighthouse, so that's what we're calling. We're telling it that we're going to execute the beacon node. That's the next parameter there, so that it knows, hey, I'm running as a beacon node and not a validator. The validator is after this. The data directory, of course, is where it's going to output the data relating to the beacon node. Testnet is Pyrmont, obviously. The staking flag basically does a couple of things. But the main one is that it exposes an HTTP RPC server, I think, so that the validator can communicate with the beacon node. So there are situations where you might just want to run the beacon and not validate against it, in which case then you would remove that flag. In our case, we need that flag because we're going to have our beacon, and then our beacon node, and then we're going to have our validator, and they need to talk to each other because the validator does validation duties for the beacon node who's doing all the processing. So that's what that staking flag is. And then the next flag is your ETH1 connection, and that's the important one for connecting to. If you want to like just move the cursor to the right on the actual editor so we can see it. So yeah, go up a couple of times and then yeah, go to the. You'll have to like manually scroll across, or you could have done it backwards the other way.
Oh,
but yeah,
okay.
So the ETH1 endpoint is basically, this is the endpoint that's exposed by the ETH1 node that we installed at the beginning of this. And so when we put that, there was an HTTP flag. This is the endpoint that flag exposes. So if you're using, the beacon node has to connect to an ETH1 instance. And so this is the way that it does that. And then the metrics flag is just so that it exposes metrics, which for this tutorial is out of scope.
Yep. All right, so I'm going to do, unless we're waiting for anybody, I'm going to hit Control X. That is going to exit, and then it's going to ask me to save. I'm going to hit Y, and then enter. Okay, so I'm just going to move on here. And then just like when we were setting up the Geth node, we are going to reload the daemon with the following command. And we're going to start up our beacon node with the following command. And then let's just run a status. All right, everything's all pretty and green. We look good here. And again, really, the only thing that would mess you up here is if there was a formatting issue on that file that we just created. But otherwise, this should run without an issue. All right, so we're going to enable now the Lighthouse beacon, the following command.
So that command there will basically tells it to start up at restart. So if your machine restarts, it will automatically start up the service again. And if you don't do this command, if you restart your machine, it will not start the service automatically.
Absolutely. Okay, and then this will probably be a good pausing point, but we're going to sync up here with the following command.
So that shows the output of the service. If you're having if that status showed inactive, you'd want to come over here and run this command so you could see any error information. But it showed active for us, so we're good. And now you can see that it's syncing against the ETH1 block cache. So that just means basically that it's syncing up with your ETH1 node.
Mm-hmm.
And it's estimating 46 minutes to do that.
Awesome. So now I'm going to Control C to get out of this view. And just like Samir was saying before, and as we did with the Geth1 node, I'm closing out of this screen, but that's not to say that the process is stopping. It's still going to run in the background and be just fine. So I'm just going to pause there for a second. How are we looking in chats? That was kind of there was a few steps there we did in rapid succession.
Some people are having permissions issues, and some are having source issues with the Lighthouse command.
All right, if we're having permission issues, let me grab that command quick again. We're going to want to run this in the chat. So a real big zoom out here while we're waiting for others to sort of sync up. When we started here, we we're making sure that the actual validator itself is ready to take on the validator binary. So we're installing all the prerequisite software packages. We did that. Then we went through the Launchpad process and generated our validator keys and uploaded those, our deposit to the Launchpad. And then we just now finished, we're basically, our beacon chain is running right now, or syncing rather, it's syncing, but we are basically 50% done in the sense of what should be running on our validator. The next is to actually run the validator node itself, and then optionally the slasher node. But for the sake of this workshop, we're just going to focus on the beacon and validator. But we're just about there. This is where we're really running now.
So while everyone's catching up, someone asked, what is the slasher node? And that is a great question. And so what I would suggest you do is, I made one post about it on Reddit recently, or a comment about it. If you look at my comment history, I'm reddit.com/u/superfizz. It's all one word on Reddit. You'll see a comment in the past 2 or 3 days talking about slashers, and I had an hour-long talk with Jim McDonald, who kind of knows everything in the world, and we talked about how slashers work, and I learned so much. The video is posted on our ETH Staker channel, and what I came out of that with were about 3 rules of thumb, and I'm going to share those as quickly as I can. The first rule of thumb is that you should not run a validator on your validating machine. If you have the resources to run a validator, you should run it on a separate machine, because a validator can be resource intensive and it could slow down your validator, costing you funds. The second rule of thumb, well, gosh, I don't remember what they are. I did a bench chat about it, but they slipped my mind. But the big picture of a slasher, is that it's not likely that by running a slasher, you're actually going to make a profit. You're actually more likely to waste resources and never get a payout for running a slasher. It turns out that anyone in the world can run a slasher and then announce slashable transactions, and the first block proposer who includes those in a block is going to get a reward for that. The chance that you are the person who runs a slasher and that you're proposing the next block where a slashable offense is included is infinitesimal. And the moral of that story is that in general, it's not a great idea to run a slasher, even though some people need to run slashers. And I because I have validators on my mind, I may have transposed and said validator instead of slasher. You do, as a validator, you do get a reward if you propose a block that includes a slashable offense. But there are 2 things. The first thing is that slashable offenses are going to be extremely rare to begin with. There will be some poor guys who run their validators in 2 places to be redundant, and they're going to get slashed, and I hate it, and I hope that we can prevent that. But I know it's going to happen. But in general, slashing will be very rare. The second thing is the chance of you being that validator who knows about the slashable offense first and proposes it is even more rare, because those slashable offenses will be broadcast throughout the network, and the first person who proposes a block with that slashable offense will get the reward. Just because you're running a slasher client does not mean you're going to be the person who proposes a block with that slashable offense. And I'm going to stop rambling about that now.
It is, and I'm sorry if you've already said this too, Superfizz, but it is worth noting as well if you are just on the cusp of having of running your validator node on hardware that is maybe a little bit older, maybe just functioning, we'd recommend you not running the slasher because it adds it's much more resource intensive. You're basically doing double duty because it requires your machine to look over every transaction. All right, let's go back to the terminal here. Now we're going to configure the validator node, and this is going to be basically the exact same steps that we just finished with the beacon node, just for specifically designed for the validator. So we're going to start by creating the service, just like we did before. The following command. We are going to create the data directory. And then one last time, we are going to open up a nano session and create a file with the following command. And then we are going to paste in the following parameters. Now this is slightly
This one's
different.
pretty straightforward. We're running the Lighthouse binary there, and we tell it that we're interested in that functioning as a validator client, which is exactly what we're doing. The testnet's pure mon, of course. The data dir hasn't changed. And we have some graffiti there, and so Anvetica, you can talk about that.
Yeah, well, I don't know how in depth I can talk about it here, but basically the graffiti holds there's more than one use case for it. I know for the Medasha testnet, along with the beacon chain platform, it was used to gain a POAP. So anyone that attested to a block or proposed a block rather and had a specific graffiti string was eligible and obtained a POAP. You can do much more arbitrary things. You can, hello mom, hello world, things on there. And there's I believe, is Buddha still online?
I think he dropped off.
Did he?
He had class.
We'll have to let me link this over. He's got a section on here. I'm putting it into the chat with the graffiti wall, and you can basically see the graffiti that validators are proposing. I believe that's how it works, but he's better at explaining that. But it's arbitrary. It's not making your validator do anything special or perform any better or worse. It's just kind of a fun little text message that you can kind of send out to the ether.
I'd like to clarify something I said earlier, because Lighthouse breaks up their validator and beacon chain into two separate software products. When I was talking about the restart sec earlier, that was for the beacon chain, and that was a mistake. The beacon chain can always have a quick restart. It's actually the validator that needs to wait for 13 minutes before restarting. And again, that's why I add all of those caveats, like I'm not sure if this is right and be careful and we're just on testnet. And we'll continue to explore this, but when it comes to restarting, it's actually your validator that needs to wait 13 minutes to ensure that you never double propose or double attest.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. So again, we're going to do Control X. It's going to ask us to save. We're going to put the letter Y and then hit enter. All right, we are going to restart the daemon. The following command. And then we're going to fire it up. We're going to start it with this command. And same deal, we're going to run a status against it to make sure that it is in fact running. And we're looking good. We're all green and pretty. All right, and then we're going to, again, just like we did before with the beacon node and Geth node, we're going to enable it. The following command. And now we can check the progress. We can see what our node is actually doing with this command. And we can see that we're syncing.
So yeah, what it's saying there is that the beacon node still hasn't synced up fully with the ETH1 node. That needs to happen first, and then the validator will start performing duties or receive duties to perform from that beacon node. Also, it's worth calling out that we did some steps earlier to import the keys into the validator. By running the validator, it's looking inside that directory where we imported that wallet, and basically using that, it will use that information to actually do the validation. So it's sort of transparent in terms of running the validator itself. It just knows, hey, here's my data directory, and then it just looks in there for the wallet and the key information and uses that. So we've already done that in the previous steps.
Absolutely. But I mean, that is not to say that is it, because I mean, this is sort of a starting point, but I mean, that is it for sort of the scope of this workshop. I mean, we're now officially running our validator. We got our beacon node running. We're talking to our ETH1 node, and this is it. This is now you're in ETH 2.0 land right now. So this is great. Obviously, we got some time to wait and let everything sync up. But I mean, this is kind of what we've been working towards here. I'll kind of wait to see how. Okay, I didn't know if there was anyone held up in the chat yet. I do want to take this opportunity here and say that this is again this is an MVP, right? So it's the minimal viable product. This is the bare minimum to get you started. I wouldn't at all consider this in a secure machine. We don't have any of the analytics tied to this for Grafana to kind of see what this stuff is doing from a visual standpoint. All of these things, I think we'll have subsequent workshops in the future to go over these things in more detail, because they are their own little beast. There's a lot to go over and a lot to understand. So this is the very first step, I think, to sort of jumping into the pool and understanding everything in its full breadth of what it is, what a beacon chain is, what a validator is. Before I give this over to any of our guests to speak, I do really and sincerely want to thank everyone of our participants. This is a big time commitment for you guys, and there's a huge crowd. I'm overwhelmed by how great the response has been by everyone joining, and how well everyone did keeping up. Absolutely amazing. I mean, this is not a sit back and just kind of watch thing. I mean, everyone did. Of all the steps to go through, this was fantastic. Everyone should be very proud of themselves. And again, if there's anyone that is still confused or not as confident, or they weren't able to follow along because they got stuck, please join the ETHStaker Discord server, invite.gg/ETHStaker. We do have a dedicated channel there for the Validator Workshop. That being said, start anywhere. Any one of those channels, just put a question in there, and us or anyone in that community is going to be more than happy to help you out. That's why we're there. We're taking questions like this every day of the week. Please don't be shy. That's exactly why we're here. You should not be feeling like you're doing this alone. We're all doing this together. We're all learning together. And I don't think any one person really knows it all. So we're better as a collective. And I would encourage you to join our community to feel that way as well, feel more confident and participate in things like this in the future. And then definitely one of the things I also want to do is thank our moderators. Buddha isn't here. I think he had to go off. Nolan, Superfizz, thank you so much for fielding these questions. It would not have worked without that help. And Samir, thank you so much, first, for putting in the countless time and hours for these guides that you're posting. But second, thank you for also participating and expanding on some of these points too for the workshop. It's invaluable.
Can I invite, you all now have more training in running an ETH2 validator than 99% of the other people who were doing this. And so what we would love for you to do is to share what you know in Reddit, in the Discord, and really help people to solve these questions and problems. Most people are following Samir's guide, so you have firsthand knowledge of that guide. And as an extension to that, while we hope that you're giving back to the community, there is an Ethereum Foundation grants round running right now for the next 10 days or so, I think until December 2nd. If you are willing to take time to develop content related to this process, if you're like, man, those guys made it so difficult and I can make it so much better, please, by all means, like honestly and sincerely, we'll be glad to help you if you want to. We want to make this more accessible, and you can receive grant funding for doing that. And so you can look that up by Googling Ethereum Foundation, Ethereum staking grant, and I can get the links for you. But there's a lot of opportunity to participate, and we would love to see you giving back to our community.
And I do want to make note as well, before I forget again, in addition to us being available on Discord and Reddit for support, this entire workshop will be posted to our YouTube channel as well for consumption later. So if you want to rewatch and follow along and do it at your own pace, that will be up probably around Monday or so, and available for everyone. So I hope that helps in some small way. All right, if there is nothing else from anyone, I think we can probably close this and wrap it up. Again, just a huge thank you to everyone. This has been fantastic. It's blown away all my expectations, and I'm excited to see something like this in the future. I really do think we'll hold additional sessions on taking you from this point, securing your box, and adding all the cool bells and whistles. But this is a great starting point. So thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend and rest of your day, and we will hopefully see you again soon.
Michael, you did an awesome job. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Also, good
Bye-bye.
job, Michael. Thank you for the guide, Samir.